What if the next medical breakthrough could change thousands of lives? Welcome to Moving Medicine Forward, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on groundbreaking healthcare innovations. I'm your host, Jeremy Schrand, and together with CTI's leading experts, we explore the cutting edge of clinical research transforming patient care. Each episode, we dive deep into the stories behind medical advancements, featuring insights from global therapeutic experts who are literally changing how we understand and treat critical disease. From rare genetic conditions to revolutionary treatment protocols, we're not just discussing research, we're highlighting the human stories driving medical progress. Today, we're excited to be joined by two leading experts from CTI Global Lab, Monica Rodriguez, Managing Director of Global Laboratory, Pharmacometrics, and Site Services, and Andy Supp, Vice President of Global Laboratory Services. Together, they'll share insights into how CTI's cutting-edge Global Lab and Pharmacometrics are helping our sponsors move medicine forward. Welcome to the podcast, Monica and Andy. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Jeremy.
So we're going to talk about lab services at CTI and kind of a new way that we've started to structure things. But first, let's get to know each of you. Monica, tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, so I'm a pharmacist by training and a PhD in pharmacology. So I'm a scientist in my heart. But then I was leading a company that I developed on my own together with Nerea Leal, that is leading the European lab in Bilbao. And that gave me also a vision of, business, not only science. So I have a combination of those two skills. I've been leading the MID group at CTI for 3.5 years, which is the modeling group. We already had a discussion about what this group can offer. And right now, my role at CTI is a combined role. So I'm managing director of the global laboratory, Pharmacometrics, which is the modeling component, and then the site services, which involve the CRC, so our phase 1 unit.
It's a big title and a big job.
Yeah, exactly.
Lots of moving parts. And Andy, what about you?
All right. Well, thank you, Jeremy. So I've been involved in clinical trials. First of all, let me start before that. I'm also a scientist by training. I have a graduate degree in pharmaceutical sciences and been involved with and related to clinical trials in one form or another for probably 30 plus years. First in an academic setting at a basically a site that also ran the studies. And then after I transitioned out of there, I joined another central laboratory in the US, a global central laboratory, had various roles during my time there, from project management all the way up through running the project management team, starting up relationship management, and then heading up the sales team. And so was involved in the very rapid growth phase of that laboratory. And I joined CTI in September of last year after serving as a consultant for several months prior. And since then, I've been fortunate enough to be the Vice President of Global Laboratory Services with responsibility for the US laboratory as well as the laboratory in Bilbao.
Awesome. So we got some lab experts here today. Tell us about how the global lab is set up at CTI. You mentioned we have a Spain lab, we have a North American lab. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, actually, CTI's laboratory is the newest, or central laboratory is the newest central laboratory in the industry, built from the ground up, so not acquisition or anything else. We started initially in the US, where we're sitting today in our laboratory in Cincinnati, Ohio. And we built up the central laboratory. So that's commonly thought of in the industry like safety testing and other services, but central, that's a misnomer just to say safety laboratory, because it's a broader book of services that as a central lab that we bring to the table. And so we built up those services first in the US. As Monica mentioned before, CTI acquired Dynakin, and with that, the expertise and the history of more than 2 decades of success and moved and assimilated Dynakin into the CTI family in Bilbao. And so that laboratory in Bilbao opened up and started as basically a bioanalytical laboratory. And so we, in the same laboratory space, we have built up a central laboratory to complement and support those services. And broaden the book of services and make CTI laboratories truly global. So the parallel then is will start to happen in the US, where we'll build up also co-located in the same building bioanalytical laboratory services. So then we'll have parallel services in both Spain and the US from a central laboratory and bioanalytical laboratory perspective.
The centralized lab approach and having labs in Spain and in North America doing the same kind of things, how does that benefit a sponsor running a clinical trial and or the industry in general?
Long time question, central versus local. When you have a central laboratory and you have the same instruments, the same processes, the same SOPs in multiple locations, you are truly standardized, globalized. We're working in the same database, following all the same processes. You reduce variability in the testing, and you bring a heightened level of consistency, which actually allows for patient numbers and enrollment numbers to be held lower, because you don't have disparate data that has to be brought together and harmonized and synthesized. You're able to follow and create and produce a data set that is completely consistent globally. And you're also able, within the stability of samples and the time it takes to from when a sample is collected to it is tested, by having multiple locations around the globe, you're able to get those samples into the location closest to where the investigator site is within the stability time, and generate that data and bring it all together in a single cohesive data set.
That's really cool. And Monica, you mentioned your new role of being lab, the modeling and site services all in one. I would imagine that it's going to bring another kind of like centralized benefit. So speak to that and how that's
Yeah,
going to help.
exactly, Jeremy. It's a very synergistic role. So we envision the role as combining forces. So at the end, the laboratory is generating data. So it's generating data in the bioanalytical lab that is generating pharmacokinetic data, and the safety lab is generating pharmacodynamic data. That's the type of data we use for modeling purposes. So pharmacokinetics and pharmacodynamics are really relating the dose with the clinical outcome. So if we're able to have a laboratory that is generating high quality data, and that can couple the data that is being generated with our modeling services that at the end are trying to improve efficiency of our clinical trials, that gives us, a very quick turnaround for decision making, and also being sure that the data that is incorporated in our models has the high quality that we need it to have. On the other hand, if we also have a phase one unit or multiple phase one units in the future, that is the growth plan that is generating also bioanalytical, so PK data from healthy volunteers or patients that are included in those phase one units, and also safety data that feeds our lab, and of course that feeds our modeling group. So it's kind of a very synergistic and efficient way of informing future clinical trials, for example, phase two trials or phase three, in a way that we can really use the knowledge that we're generating efficiently to really make sure that those trials are very, very well designed and generating high quality data. As you know, phase two, phase three trials are very risky.
Mhm.
So if we can help our sponsors de-risk those trials by a well generated set of data and information, and a well analyzed with models,
Yeah.
and that helps them decide how to move forward, that is really improving efficiency of clinical trials and de-risking development.
Yeah, so it's kind of speaks to that idea of like the one-stop shop for all of your CRO services needs. You can bring everything to it, and I love that Tim always says what it's the bench to commercialization, like
Exactly.
all the way through. So what are you guys excited about in the future? The future of CTI Labs, the future of CTI. What excites you about the
Well,
industry?
I think we are in a year of growth and expansion and acceleration of the services that we offer in CTI. So I think both Andy and I are very happy to be, responsible for in the way we can to support like this expansion and super interesting phase that CTI is going through right now. So I think we feel very proud to be able to move this ship together and contribute to the expansion of services that we can offer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, I'm very excited and enthusiastic about continuing to build out and expand our services. As I mentioned, continue on that path of the replicated service offerings between Bilbao and the U.S. lab, as we then start to consider and investigate perhaps other locations, other expansion plans. But really, what I'm excited about is the synergistic aspect that Monica has described. with our phase ones, our clinical site, our modeling group, and our laboratories, it truly is unique in the industry to be able to bring that group of service offerings that are very much intertwined to our clients, and even at an earlier point in development time than a central lab would normally be getting involved in clinical trials. Through the use of that synergistic feed into the modeling team, we open up possibilities, expanded possibilities for the laboratories, but also a very unique service offering and a differentiated service offering to our
Well,
clients.
one thing, Jeremy, that we wanted to discuss briefly is what we can bring as a combined service offering in translational development. So this means that we are using information that is being generated, for example, in very early phases of drug development. We can generate high quality data, as I mentioned, in our laboratory, all the way from preclinical stages, so very early. And in that way, we are translating information into humans in a very efficient way, and then translating information from healthy volunteers into patients in a very efficient way. So we envision our service offering and also the work that CTI comes as, partners that can help our sponsors move efficiently throughout drug development from the beginning. We have an incredible group of scientists in the lab, so not only the modeling team, of course, but the scientists in the bioanalytical lab and our safety laboratory that can not only know a lot about lab-related issues, but also they're scientists that know how to apply that data, of course, then and use it appropriately for decision making. So as Andy mentioned, we think this is unique in the CRO industry, and we are really, a differentiating company in that sense, and we need to really speak about that.
Yeah,
because it is very important.
exciting.
Yeah.
Like just the efficiencies alone, like I can imagine it. Like I mean, when we talk to anybody about the trials and stuff, it's always like, how can we save time on this, and how can
Exactly.
we make things more efficient? Because it takes so long to get these drugs to market.
Yeah.
It's really, really
So
cool.
we have the best people and the best knowledge to help make those decisions.
And it's the foundation for a paradigm shift. Honestly, it really
Mhm.
is in the industry. I think because it's part of the challenge is educating people and making them aware of what we can bring and the additional benefits, as Monica said, from very early on. And it's just not a common way of thinking for a lot of pharma companies and a lot of people out there because it is so unique. But once they understand and they see it, it becomes pretty clear to them. So it's very exciting in that regard to
And
continue.
indeed, pharmaceutical companies are all including right now in the last like 2 or 3 years these translational groups. So they have it internally. There were groups that were not there before because most pharma companies had a lot of like silo groups like the non-clinical, the clinical phase 1, the phase 2. And then they saw that in order to expedite the efficiency of drug development, they needed a group that was overseeing the whole development process, and that is that translational group. So the lab right now, with the CRC and the modeling and the PK/PD expertise that we bring, we are kind of mimicking that translational solutions that we can bring. So we're not only a lab, which is a lot, but not only a lab, but we add much more to that solution that every pharmaceutical company, biotech needs.
Yeah.
And even more in spaces like cell and gene therapy, which is something
very
that we can also contribute.
Yeah, and it's cool because you can bring that service to like a smaller biotech that doesn't have
Exactly.
the resources to staff that.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Thank you, Monica and Andy, for joining me today on the podcast and telling us how CTI Labs and the modeling and the site's services are continuing to help move medicine forward.
Thank you for the opportunity to
Yeah,
speak.
thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoy discovering how medicine is moving forward, or you are interested in how CTI could help you with clinical research, be sure to subscribe. Follow us on social media or visit our website at ctifacts.com.